What's up, everybody, and welcome to another episode of Team Chat Podcast. I am one of your hosts, Jarrett Wilson, joined by Rachel Mogan.
Buongiorno.
Buongiorno to you as well on this gloriously sunny Sunday morning. It's amazing. Oh, did I get a little bit of fur there?
A little fender fur.
A little fur there.
Little fender furs.
It's everywhere. He's in here today, monitoring our recording session, making sure that we sound great and we put on an excellent show for everyone.
He takes his role as producer very seriously.
Very seriously. On the days that we have to shut him out of the office because he would just be too much noise, he's very upset with me and lets me have an earful later. But, it's either here nor there. It should not affect the quality of today's show, where we talk about games here at Team Chat Podcast, a weekly video game show where, like I said, we talk about games, the ones we love, the ones we hate, and everything in between. New episodes come out Tuesday, 9 a.m. Central Time, and you can listen to those on podcast services around the World Wide Web, as well as watch a video version on YouTube and Twitch. You can find links for all that in the descriptions for the episodes below. Also, you can find us on social media such as Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram, and join our Discord server. Again, links for all that stuff, it's there. It's down there. If you have any questions or feedback for the show, you can send us an email at teamchatpodcast@gmail.com. And finally, we are a completely listener-supported show. So if you're really enjoying what we're creating for you each and every week, head over to patreon.com/teamchatpodcast and, maybe throw us a couple bucks there to help support the show. And in return, we will give you a couple of cool perks like getting the episodes early and access to our private patron-only channel on our Discord server. There's a lot of words in that sentence.
You struggle with it like every time.
That was a hard sentence. I might need to revisit this one. Rewrite, revisit, come back with a new one. It's a little bit more succinct and easier to spiel out, as it were. But again, that is patreon.com/teamchatpodcast. And a big special thank you to all of our patrons who help make each and every episode possible.
We love you more than everyone else.
This is true. They tell you not to play favorites, but we have favorites.
Yeah, it's pay to win. You're winning.
We are the worst of the game industry.
We are the EA.
Pay to win. No. All right, but we do have a lot to talk about today, so we're going to go ahead and jump right into it with our... actually, let's switch it up a little bit here, because a lot of our episode is going to roll into... We're going to roll into the main topics from the Moment with Mogan, so we're going to switch up and do a quick Red Dead Roundup.
Oh, okay. You startled me.
I'm sorry. Man, that was the fastest, easiest transition.
It was very smooth, actually.
Man, I'm pretty proud of myself. But welcome to the first Red Dead Roundup of 2019, y'all. Pew, 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 pew. So I finally actually had some serious time to spend in the game. Got quite a few hours in over the last couple weeks.
What's your hour count by now?
Ooh, I've been actually looking to try to find it. If anyone has been able to figure out where you can see it, because I looked at my saves on the PS4 and I couldn't see it anywhere.
Really?
So I'm trying to figure out where that is. I've got to be...
It doesn't say it on your save file?
It tells you the time of the day that you save, but it doesn't tell you the actual, it doesn't tell you the thing. So I know, I'm kind of bummed. I want to know how much time I spent in it. But I think around 20 plus.
That's really funny because I now have at least 30 hours into Hollow Knight.
Oh, yeah.
And I've had it for at least half the time that you've had Red Dead.
Hey,
I think I'm 26 to 30, somewhere in there.
Nice.
But anyways, go on.
Wait, that long in Hollow Knight? It has that much content, or it just takes that long?
Dude, I'm not even done.
Okay.
I mean, I have died a lot.
Well, yeah, so have I. I didn't think it was that big of a game, though.
It's big.
Oh, no.
You've got some progress to make if you're ever going to play it.
I do have some progress
That's
to make.
neither here nor there.
It's true. But anyway, so I've been really enjoying it more. The big thing, though, what I want to focus on, getting more into the story, really, I just actually made it into chapter 3. So I'm now at a new position, new chapter in the story, moving along there. Again, don't want to talk about that much for spoiler reasons. But the big thing, though, that they did come out with in the last week is they did finally Rockstar release the Gun Rush mode into the Red Dead Online, which is basically their version of the Battle Royale.
Gotcha.
So at this moment, they only allow 32 people. It's only 32 people into this mode. And what's is nice, though, from other battle royales is that it takes place they have different maps, not one big map that everybody's in. You
That's
actually
nice.
have different smaller maps. But also that makes sense because of the lower player count with only 32.
Right.
But I played around in it. Maybe the second day it had been out, so I don't think that many people were playing it yet because I was only getting lobbies with 6 to 7 people in them, really.
Wow.
So, and again, this could be because of their server rollout, how they decided to do this. But yeah, so it was very low lobby numbers, which was making the games feel very nothing happening, but then all of a sudden something happened, which usually meant I died. So
naturally,
I did have a couple of good rounds where I got 2 or 3 kills, which felt really good. My biggest complaint is that the weapons are very difficult to find. It shows them on the map where they are. You'll see like the symbol for what type of gun it is or weapon that you're going to pick up. But when you rush there, you can barely see the weapon just like rotating, floating above the ground, rotating, and it's got like this gold like trail that kind of floats above it to like indicate where it is. But there's still sometimes I found it very difficult to see them in like the underbrush or like grass or areas and stuff where it is. And then plus two, Red Dead's item pickup, like you have to be very precise when you want to look at the option.
You have to be like right on top of something
top of it and like looking at it
in the right
up,
way,
which can be very slow. I got killed several times just trying to pick up something.
I do think that's really annoying.
So I think that needs to be like a run over. You run into it and like it automatically picks it up, or like it's a quick tap. I don't know. It was very difficult to pick up weapons, I thought.
Yeah.
But still, I like that it's the smaller server size. I like that it has the smaller maps, just so you get a little bit more variety than what you get out of your Fortnites or your Blackouts or PUBGs. But for the most part, I wasn't overly impressed yet. I'm still not overly impressed with the online. Still, I thought when I first played it, I was going to really enjoy it a lot more than maybe even the base game. But then I started playing it more. A lot of the same issues I had from Grand Theft Auto 5 came on, being a lot of griefing, which they are trying to take efforts to minimize that and make that better. But I felt like I could literally not take 2 steps without getting shot by somebody, usually the same person, over and over again. And so along with that, and then it's just, well, right now, too, I still want to focus on the story because I want to finish that first before I spend a lot of time on online. I've got enough online stuff to play right now. I don't necessarily see Gun Rush taking over Fortnite or Blackout for me in terms of a favorite battle royale, but it's still nice to have another choice out there to mess around in every once in a while. So that basically wraps up my Red Dead Roundup for today. Now we jump over to that moment with Mogan.
All right, so we haven't really been doing a moment with Mogan since the new year because we've been doing a lot of other stuff.
Well, and we had Kirok on last week, and we didn't want to. We wanted to be able to jump right into that topic with him.
So we're going to do a little bit of recap just in case you missed it. So, in case you missed it, Mario and Luigi Bowser's Inside Story came out on January 11th for the Nintendo 3DS. That's the one where Mario and Luigi get shrunk down, and then I think Bowser inhales them by accident.
Oh, what the hell?
And Mario and Luigi are literally like in him, like doing stuff. But what's funny is that you also kind of control Bowser. And so, like, let's say you need to put out a fire in the real world, or like, actually, excuse me, you need to put out a fire in Bowser's intestines, which I don't think is something that actually happens. I don't know. But you might have to tell Bowser to go and drink a bunch of water in the real world so that Mario and Luigi can have the water to put out the fire. Right. It's weird. I don't know if people like it. It's a mystery.
That sounds very
It sounds very odd. In similarly related Mario news, new Super Mario Bros. U Deluxe. This is the Mario Brothers that came out for the Wii U. Nobody played it because nobody had a Wii U, but this also just made it to Switch, also on January 11th. I have played new Super Mario Bros. Wii U Deluxe. It's a fantastic game.
I really think I'm going to pick this one up.
Anybody that enjoys Mario in any form is going to love this game. So if you didn't get to play it on Wii U, play it on Switch. It is probably still a fantastic game. Tales of Vesperia, the definitive edition, came out for PS4, Xbox One, Switch, and PC, also on January 11th. And then, as of this episode's air date, on January 15th, Onimusha Warlords is coming out for PS4, Xbox One, Switch, and PC. Also on January 15th, The Walking Dead, the final season, episode 3, Broken Toys. Wow, that's a long title. Anyways, it comes out for PS4, Xbox One, Switch, and PC. Is that the one by the studio that is now dead?
Yeah, by Telltale. But so it got picked up by Skybound Games. Skybound Games is now finishing out the series.
So you could even say that the title of The Walking Dead is now like extra hilarious because not only is their game dead, so is their studio. Oh, burn. They kind of burned themselves there. I don't know how to say this next title, so I'm just going to do my best.
Okay.
It's either Yike or it's YIIK. How would you say that?
Yeah.
I don't know. Okay, so we're going to pretend that it's YIIK, a postmodern RPG, comes out for PS4, Switch, and PC January 17th. And then in the near future, we have Ace Combat 7, Skies Unknown for PS4 and Xbox One, and Travis Strikes Again, No More Heroes. Makes it to Switch. Both of those on January 18th.
Boom. there we go.
And in other kind of non-release related video game news, there was a really, I don't want to say covert, but a very subtle development in the Overwatch universe.
Yes.
Obviously, Jared and I both still play Overwatch. Not sorry. I don't think the game is dead, and I still like it. So in one of the recent comic books, I think, that came out, it had mostly a lot to do with the character of Ana. And it was about her time kind of while she was disappeared, when everybody thought she was dead. And they subtly revealed in the comics that Soldier 76 is in fact gay. Hooray!
It's awesome.
That makes two characters in Overwatch.
Tracer and Soldier
Tracer
76.
and Soldier 76. So I was like, wow, what a super nice thing to happen
I know.
out of nowhere.
It really did.
And I mean, I have always felt like Soldier's voice line of "bring the noise, bring the ruckus" was specifically talking about like 70s disco. I just couldn't prove it. Now I think it is.
But would it be 70s disco still?
I don't know how old. They're like in the future, aren't they?
It's like in the future, but not like...
the real future. Well,
I feel like I remember like
future.
a year ago somebody posting on like an Overwatch subreddit or something like, "Hey, Reinhardt was born today," like in lore
Really?
or something like that. I think
That's hilarious.
But yeah, somebody did stuff like that. So yeah, they're way like 20, like in the 60s maybe, something like that. 2060 something, 60, 70. I don't know.
Right on.
It's a
Anyways,
different world.
the point is, Overwatch is now a little bit more inclusive.
It is indeed.
Good for them.
For an already incredibly diverse and inclusive game
Yeah.
as it is. But yeah, so adding that in is a great touch. And then yeah, the lead writer of Overwatch, Michael Chu, did come out and tweet officially. I mean, if the comic book wasn't enough, he did tweet that as quote, "Thanks for all the messages about Bastet. Jack and Vincent were in a romantic relationship many years ago. Both identify as gay." So this firmly establishes that
Indeed.
it is an actual.
There's no
actually
way
in
that you
canon.
could like gloss over it. It's
right,
definitely
right.
there.
It's a definite thing. It's a definite who Soldier 76 is, and I think
Indeed.
it's awesome.
I do too. Good for him.
But speaking of the Bastet and the challenges and everything that are in Overwatch right now, where you can unlock one of a skin for Ana, Bastet
It's a
skin.
cool
it's
skin,
a very
too.
cool skin.
It is
Which I think
awesome.
Overwatch needs to do this more
Oh,
with
these
unlocking
challenges?
to unlock skins and everything.
They did
I
the
think it's
same
awesome.
one for Diva. So this is actually really similar to Diva's Nano Cola Challenge. Did you participate
I don't
in
know
that?
if I think I missed that
It was
one.
the exact same format. So
Really?
actually, they piloted this format. Format with Diva. Anyways, so yeah, they set it up to where it's kind of like arcade, where you have to win either 3, 6, or 9 games, but you can do it in any mode. You can
Yeah.
do it in arcades, you can do it in competitive, or you can do it in quick play, which I think is really nice
think it is
because
too.
that doesn't restrict you to the arcade modes, which a lot of people don't enjoy.
I actually play the arcade modes more than anything else.
I personally love arcade, and I love Mystery Heroes specifically.
Really, I hate Mystery
But
Heroes.
the other ones I don't like.
I only
don't
play
like I
Deathmatch.
don't like Deathmatch.
I love Deathmatch, but I hate when it's Mystery Deathmatch.
Oh, see, I would play Mystery Deathmatch.
No, because that's what I've been playing, and I've been playing this whole time while trying to get this challenge, which I did get, and that skin is awesome. But oh my god, it makes me feel like I'm such a trash tier Overwatch player.
Well, because you are.
Obviously, I haven't played in a very long time either, so that may have. But I feel like normally whenever I take a break from a game, like I play too much, I take a break from a game. When I come back, the first few matches back out of the gate, I'm actually really good,
And then you fall
and
back
then I fall
off.
back. This time, I started it up, and immediately was just terrible. So I don't know what's going on, but I'm trying to work it back up. But the problem is also with the Mystery Heroes, I don't play my mains very much, so I'm not my old Roadhog, my old Genji
Gengu.
and stuff, and trying to get better at Ashe because Ashe is good. I like Ashe.
She is fancy.
She is fancy.
I personally can't play her for shiznit.
Really, I can do pretty good with her.
No,
I
I'm
like her a lot.
terrible. Like trash tier.
sorry for
god
you.
awful. Anyways, so that's the Overwatch
One
news.
bit of news. Second bit of news before we jump into the last bit of
and
deal.
it's a little bit more complex.
It's a little bit more complex. Got more notes on this one. Had to do a bit more research on this one. Totally get a firm grasp of the situation. But it's a big one. Bungie has split with Activision and will be retaining publishing rights for Destiny and will be self-publishing Destiny here on out.
Dun, dun,
This is big.
I know it's probably not going to happen, but in my mind, this also means that Bungie will somehow manage to get back Halo.
They're not
I
going to
know
get back
they're
Halo.
not going to, but like just in my mind, I'm like, yeah, they're free.
I know.
Be free, Bungie. Go get Halo.
Apparently, in a lot of the article, like Jason Schreier from Kotaku wrote an article talking about this, and he said he referenced in there that apparently like employees at Bungie cheered and champagne was popped.
That's
when the news was
hilarious.
announced. And apparently the same thing happened when Bungie announced that they were splitting from Microsoft way back in 2011, I believe.
Bungie they just have always needed to fly on their own wings.
But I mean, to be fair, that's when they've done their best with Halo and everything, and their older games like Marathon and some other stuff before they. I mean, obviously nobody has issues with it. I mean, some people do. Like a lot of people I know hold up with like Halo 3 and Reach were like the last of the best of the good Halo games since 343 took over. But I've enjoyed, like, I actually really liked Halo 4. I thought 343 did a really good job there. Halo 5, no, I didn't like the story of that one as much, but the multiplayer is still fun. I know you haven't. This isn't necessarily your.
I literally wouldn't know.
And sadly, we don't have that person who used to sit here.
We're looking at Fender, but we both know.
We see Zach's face on
Yeah,
him,
we.
who could tell us a little bit more about Halo.
Let's just get Fender up in his own chair. We'll pretend he's Zach.
But anyway, so still, like, they have this. It seems to be this. It's obviously this pattern of Bungie where they do well. Somebody was like, "We really like your stuff. Let's work together." Like, okay, let's do it. And then they eventually want to split up later. But apparently, which I wasn't as familiar about this, or I feel like I'd seen like little things about it, but I wasn't aware how much tension there was between Bungie and Activision, which has been a big lead up to this happening.
I may have missed kind of their history because obviously I wasn't as into looking into video games more in depth pre-podcast, but when they merged, was it actually a mutual merger or was it a takeover?
I don't know necessarily
Activision
if it's
buy Bungie?
I don't know if it's a necessarily. That's actually a good question. I don't know if they did either.
Because the manner
I feel like they just partnered. I don't feel like it's a because it seems way more of an amicable split than somebody who was bought. I feel like if Activision was having issues with Bungie, they would just kill Bungie. Like, kind of like how EA has done with Visceral and other studios.
Stop it, EA.
I feel like if they were legit, like, hey, you're not hitting our numbers, we're just going to shut you down and farm out Destiny to another studio. But I feel like Bungie still holds enough of its own independence as its own thing to be like, no, how about we just negotiate where we leave you and we handle this ship on our own? And I think that's where we're sitting at. But so obviously the lead up to this is that they had this 8-year partnership since 2011. Like we said, it's very similar to the Bungie and Microsoft split from way back into before that. But now, at least the big difference, though, as opposed to the split with Microsoft, where they gave up Halo and now Halo is in charge of 343. Now, like I said, Bungie is going to get to keep Destiny, and they're going to self-publish Destiny from here on out, including updates or further expansions of Destiny 2 and, of course, Destiny 3 and 4, however more they go on. So this gives them a lot more freedom because one of the big things and one of the key takeaways from all the different articles and the other things that I looked at to read is that now Bungie is no longer going to be tied to Activision's demanding release schedule, where they wanted new content yearly, either through expansions, new game, and from a lot of stuff I read from Jason Schreier and some other on like PC Mag and stuff like that, they talked about how that this was really building up in Bungie because they felt like they were being too rushed, whereas Activision was constantly like, hey, hit these numbers. They were hitting them, but then they weren't selling as well as they should have, so they're never really hitting all these right target numbers that they needed to hit, but they're not putting out great content either because they're feeling rushed. Obviously, I've long spoken about my issues with Destiny and how it feels very repetitive very quickly. Apparently, the Forsaken expansion that they just came out with fixed a lot of issues, but it still hasn't totally redeemed it.
It's also not supposed to be the function of an expansion that it fixes the base game.
Right.
Like, that's not how games should be released. The initial release should be good enough to stand on its own, and the expansion should then just be bonus content.
Exactly.
Joyous bonus
tweaks
content.
and all this stuff. But yeah, this whole of like, and I'm sure that by the time they roll around to Destiny 3, it is going to be a different thing, and they'll probably revamp things once again.
Can I make a bad joke real quick?
Sure.
I thought of it while you were talking, but I didn't previously want to interrupt. When they eventually release the last Destiny game, do you think they're going to call it The Final Destination?
Oh my God. That'd be amazing. Don't give it a number, just the Final Destination.
Just the Destiny. I have good ideas, Bungie. Listen to me.
Hire her. You're now on your own. You can do this kind of thing.
Oh oh man, I was like holding it in. So
That's good. I like that a lot. But so it'll be very interesting to see what comes of this. Obviously, since now Bungie will be free of all this, but they also then now have to take on the burden and responsibility of self-publishing the game, which adds a lot more responsibility
and a lot more
cost. So we'll be interested to see how they move forward from this. But it still is very exciting news and interesting news. And I gotta say, it kind of makes me interested in what will be. I'll be interested in Destiny 3 because maybe it will be like the reverse, where like Halo 1, 2, 3 were excellent. Then they got more into bed with Microsoft, then 343, all that. But they, still the first one was really good. Whereas they've had Destiny always under the Activision wing. So I wonder what will happen with Destiny 3 when it being outside of that. Maybe it'll actually be really good, and I'll love it.
A lot of the conjecture that I've seen from fans of Destiny and from fans of Bungie, obviously, is that Bungie now wants to make Destiny even more Destiny than before, which I think just means doubling down on the core aspects of Destiny that are actually good,
right?
And phasing out all that Activision crap that they maybe didn't want.
Which was a lot of the stuff with, especially how microtransactions are handled, because the Eververse store, obviously, microtransactions are there to be a supplement to the making of the money from the original sale on the game. Obviously, those are put in place a lot more. The pressure to put those in is a lot more from the publisher because the publisher's like, hey, we got to make the money. So it will be interesting again to see. I think, they'll keep microtransactions in there, but I wonder if they'll switch to the more cosmetic-only avenue rather than...
I hope so. Obviously, I think that personally that's the most natural way to include microtransactions that the consumer might actually react well to.
Yeah, I don't mind buying a cosmetic item every once in a while, but don't tie my progress to the game through things I have to purchase.
Exactly.
So, but yeah, interesting to see where that will move forward in the days coming.
Indeed.
Now, we have a fun one.
We have a fun little topic, thanks to a new listener of the show.
So we got an email in this week from Josh.
First of all, it has been so long since we got
Thank you for
email.
ending our drought, Josh. This is great.
It's really because now we have the Discord, and that's how we
true.
get
That's where we get a lot of our stuff. Yeah.
And so it's like an email. Oh my goodness,
so fancy. But you can email us just like Josh did at teamchatpodcast@gmail.com. And so here's his email. He says, "Hello, you guys. This is my first email to you. I've only been listening for around a month now. Oh, thanks for listening, Josh. Welcome to the show. Now I apologize if it's too long, but I have a few questions." 1, so I've been thinking I want to play some more games. I want to have a main game and a secondary once I beat Let's Go Pikachu. Here's what I'm deciding between. Main game, The Last of Us, Breath of the Wild. Secondary game, Animal Crossing, Stardew Valley, Animal Crossing for the 3DS, Stardew Valley for PS Vita, Splatoon 2 for Switch, or some other wild card mentions in here, Owlboy for Switch, Metroid for 3DS, Salt and Sanctuary for Switch. Any thoughts? I prefer 2 games, but I am open to 3. All right, he's got some other...
Let's move on to his next questions after we address the first one.
Let's address it, because this is going to be the meat of this.
Yeah, and it's like there's a lot of back and forth that could be talked about here. But actually, I kind of think that the main one might be the shortest one. So he's deciding as his main 2 games between The Last of Us and Breath of the Wild.
Right.
I think I probably know what you're going to say.
Oh, absolutely. The Last of Us.
And actually, I am too.
I was wondering how we were going to go on this, because they are different. The thing about this, Josh, is they're very different games.
They are wildly different.
So many puns today! We need to record on Sunday mornings more often. The puns are flowing.
That's where my humor is at its peak. Anyways, they are vastly different games. The Last of Us, really the only reason that I'm saying you should play that one first is Breath of the Wild doesn't have a sequel. It probably will never have a sequel until there is another Legend of Zelda game. It may or may not have anything to do with Breath of the Wild.
That's true.
Whereas The Last of Us, we know for certain that The Last of Us 2 is coming out eventually.
With more and more hints that it might be actually coming this year.
I personally still don't think it's going to come out in 2019.
I'm not holding my breath super hard for it. But
it is a fairly meaty game. It has a lot of content on its own. It's very, I wouldn't say time, what's the word for it? Time
sensitive? Like exclusive?
No, not time sensitive. I don't know why I'm blanking on the word for it. Anyways, it's not a game that you have to funnel
more
ton of time consuming.
There we go.
Man, why couldn't I think of that word? It's not a hugely time consuming game, but it does require a lot of emotional investment.
Yeah.
Like you need to be in the mindset of The Last of Us. Have your tissues nearby. So I think that having a base of The Last of Us with a little bit of time for that to simmer once you finish it sets you up really nicely to move into The Last of Us 2 when it does eventually come out.
And the expansion, or the DLC for Last of Us Left Behind.
Yeah,
I've actually
exactly.
decided. So I've been waiting to... I've only played The Last of Us once. And that's how great of a game
That's
it is.
shocking, good sir.
Because it's honestly, it's one of those things. It's been that thing. Remember, before Last of Us Part 2 was announced, I was of the mindset like, I don't know if it needs a second.
Right.
Because it was so good. So it's been that thing of like not wanting to tarnish the memories, basically.
I totally get it.
And so that's why one reason why I haven't played it. Plus, there's just been so many other great things to play. But I have decided that what I want to do is whenever we do finally get the release date for 2, I'm going to start another playthrough of Last of Us. But I'm going to do Last of Us, jump, and then when I don't want to spoil anything for you, Josh, here, but when story appropriate, switch to when chronologically Left Behind DLC would happen.
Oh, okay.
Then jump back to finish the main game.
Oh, that's a cool idea. Neato.
So I'm looking forward to that. But so to piggyback on what you're saying about it is I completely agree with what she's saying. Breath of the Wild, while not in my mind as good of a game as The Last of Us.
You haven't even played it that much.
I know. And
How dare you?
Well,
but I don't think that it would change your mind.
I don't think it would either. But because also, again, like I said, they're completely two different games. Breath of the Wild is a very big, open, massive, expansive role-playing game to an extent. Shares similar qualities. It has a great story and everything, although the story has often, like, you're not as big of a story as other Zelda games.
No, one of my primary complaints about Breath of the Wild is that I felt in the story and character development department it was sorely lacking in comparison to other Legend of Zelda games. But there's still a ton that I love about it.
Right.
So if and when you are ready for the undertaking that is Breath of the Wild, it is primarily an exploration game.
Yes.
And it does that in like triple A plus fashion.
It's got a lot for you to do.
For what it does that it's good at, it's amazing at it. But there's no time limit. I mean, it's not like you need to play Breath of the Wild right now because something else is coming out down the line. You can save Breath of the Wild for whenever you're ready for it. It's
Right.
not something that you need to do today. You could. You would be really addicted to it for a while, and then I guess you could move on to a new game.
Well, and then too, you're talking about time, like hours into the game. Breath of the Wild, how many hours do you think you've put into Breath of the Wild?
I checked recently. I have at least 195.
Jesus.
Yeah, that's not a joke. Like, if you go to my Nintendo Switch profile, it shows everybody what games you've played and how many hours you've put in. That is still my top one at 195 plus.
Dang.
I don't think I've cracked 200 yet, which
Not
I
quite?
thought I had.
I thought you had too.
I know, I suck.
But still, so again, Breath of the Wild allows for that. So if that's what you're looking for, if that's the kind of experience that you're looking for, that this massive, expansive game that you're going to be able to pour literally hundreds of hours into,
hundreds.
then I would say, yeah, go for Breath of the Wild. If you want a more condensed story that still packs a shitload of emotion into it, hit up The Last of Us. Not to mention, The Last of Us does have the multiplayer mode, Factions, which does... It's fun. I enjoy playing it a lot. It still has a semi-active community, although at this point, you're also going to be very... out-leveled probably by a lot of the people that are on there. So I don't know how much necessarily fun it will be, but it does have a fun multiplayer mode. And obviously I've sung the praises of the story enough of how good it is. So I think our consensus here is The Last of Us is for what you should hit for your main game.
Yeah,
but now your
absolutely.
secondary, so I gotta say though, I'm not as familiar with some of his secondaries or his either. Like
I am
actually
familiar with every single one of these.
Okay, well that's good then, because I like his ethers. I'm not familiar with Owlboy or Salt and Sanctuary at all. But as far as the so maybe we should kind of combine all these. He has these three secondaries: Animal Crossing, Stardew Valley, Splatoon. Like, I know where I would throw my vote behind.
Stardew Valley.
Absolutely.
Yeah, that's exactly what I was also going to say.
Okay.
And the reason for that, so I do really like this theme that he's got going on here, where The Last of Us and Breath of the Wild are both more meant to be at-home played
Yes.
games, whereas clearly with all these secondary choices, these are like his games on the go.
Also, I gotta say, cheers on the PS Vita being your platform of choice for
still having
Stardew
a
Valley.
Vita, bro.
I still have my Vita.
Yeah, that's crazy. Anyway, so Stardew Valley, because of the type of graphics that it uses, I don't think you would lose any visual quality on playing it on the Switch versus on the PS Vita. So of these top 3 that he's listed as his secondaries, Animal Crossing is obviously one of my favorite handheld games ever. I adore Animal Crossing. I also adore Stardew Valley, and I like Splatoon 2. I don't love it as much as any of these others, but I do like it. So if it were just to be condensed down to this first secondary category, I would strike off Splatoon 2 just right off the bat, and I would still put my vote in for Stardew Valley, and that's because I have noticed this with Stardew Valley in comparison to Animal Crossing New Leaf. I just recently got a big milestone in Stardew Valley. I finished, this is mildly spoilery, but not really, because you know right off the bat that it's
Headphones
something...
if you don't want to hear it.
Yeah, you know right off the bat that it's something you can do. I just recently finished the community center. I accomplished
you learned that
all
pretty
of
quick.
the upgrade bundles, and the community center is now done. That is a big moment in the game, and it's kind of like an indicator of not, hey, you're done forever, but it is a really nice goalpost of, congratulations.
You could be done.
You technically finished everything that we had for you. Good job. So really kind of the only things that I have to do in Stardew Valley from here on are make my farm bigger and better than ever, just for fun, because it is really fun. Marry my Hazubando.
Elliot
We're
still?
still in boyfriends with each other, but I haven't, it won't rain. I can't get that, never mind. The point is I can't marry him quite yet, so that's still further down the line. And there are a couple of legendary fish that I haven't caught that would be really nice. And there are a ton of in-game achievements that I can still continue to work towards.
Right.
But in terms of having a sense of completion, I kind of think I got there. I'm like, okay, cool. I technically finished Stardew Valley. That, people may disagree with me on that being the definitive thing about the game, but it feels really nice, at least for me, to feel like I got to the end. It's like, okay, sweet, I did it. I accomplished all of my goals. Now I just get to run on maintenance, basically. Whereas with Animal Crossing New Leaf, there are goals that you can accomplish. You can obviously have your entire city kind of upgraded to the max. You can upgrade the library, the museum. Actually, it's just the museum. Sorry about that. It looks like a library on the outside. You can upgrade the museum, get all of the shopkeepers to move in, and of course, you can make your town as fancy as you possibly want, but it is much more of a continuous game. Animal Crossing never stops. Ever. You keep going and going and going because it lives on the
Energizer Bunny.
Exactly. It lives on the real world calendar. It's always going to be there. You're always going to have stuff to do, even if it's just minor stuff. So in terms of being able to play a secondary game and eventually get to the point where you kind of feel like you finished it, Stardew Valley. If you want a game that you can play forever and ever and literally forever, Animal Crossing New Leaf. They're both really good, but I would say Stardew Valley.
Nice. I've only played I've played Splatoon 2 and Stardew Valley. Animal Crossing, I've only had experience from Animal Crossing Pocket Camp, the mobile version of it.
Animal Pocket Crossing Camp.
Yeah. Have you not heard of the new expansion?
It's really fun.
But anyway, so I have to agree. Stardew Valley, I think, hands down. Also from... Well, I'm assuming maybe this is for the original 3DS. I don't know. What's the price point on 3DS games? $40?
Yeah?
I think. It's like $40, $39.99.
Yeah, that sounds right.
Yeah. Whereas
For new releases. But you can get
Animal
a used
Crossing by this
copy of
point.
Animal Crossing anywhere.
Yeah, for probably fairly cheap. So pricing on those two games might not be that big of a difference between Animal Crossing and Stardew Valley. Stardew Valley's $15.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Whereas Splatoon 2 is
it's still going to be $60 because it's
still a full
Nintendo
price
and they don't
game.
put stuff
yeah,
on sale.
Exactly.
They take $5 off.
Yeah.
So if you're looking at it from a price point, I would say look into the one of those two. Of the two, Stardew Valley, I think. Stardew Valley, I tried Pocket Camp because I thought that might be my thing to get into Animal Crossing, and it just didn't connect with me.
Yeah.
Stardew Valley, I didn't think was going to connect with me, but connected with me in a big way. And I still play it very often. I'm not near as far as Mogan is. Still haven't finished my first year.
You should be ashamed.
I should be. It's neither here nor there.
But quick
But
caveat.
still, it's a super fun game.
Yeah. And a quick caveat, so of the Ithers, so again, he listed Owlboy, Metroid Samus Returns, I believe is the one he's talking about for the 3DS, and Salt and Sanctuary for the Switch. I have not played Owlboy and Salt and Sanctuary, but the theme of these three is that they're all phenomenal platformers. Whoopsie doodles. And of those those three, Metroid 3DS, I can strongly recommend. I played Metroid 3DS, Samus Returns, obsessively until I got stuck on a boss and I like rage quit and I still haven't gone back. So that's my own fault. And now that I'm like not super good, but I'm decent at Hollow Knight, I'm like, how hard can it be? I can surely go back and do it now because like my confidence is restored. But Samus Returns is a really good mix in terms of a platformer that you can play in handheld of really good graphics. I mean, just because it's a handheld game doesn't mean the graphics aren't awesome. It looks good. It sounds great. The sound quality of like all of those Metroid Prime sound effects, all perfectly integrated. The enemies are really fun. The gameplay mechanics are super tight. It is a great game. And I like 9 out of 10 at least. So I could highly recommend it to any lover of platformers or handheld games. Or Metroid fans. A++, 10 out of 10. Well, I just said 9 out of 10. Shut up. Whatever. So that's my secondary vote. Is if you're not wanting to do the undertaking of Stardew or Animal Crossing, Samus Returns can't go wrong. It's a great game.
So to wrap up then on your first question, our three recommendations are The Last of Us for the PS4, Stardew Valley for PS Vita as you have here, or any platform that you choose, and then Metroid Samus Returns for the 3DS. Yes. So we move on then to his secondary question here, which we might have actually kind of already touched on a little bit here. To go along with my secondary list, would you recommend Animal Crossing New Leaf or Stardew Valley? Okay,
Whoops.
so he's
we accidentally
the New
kind of
Leaf,
already,
so we kind of already answered
whoops.
this one. I'm new to those kind of games, and I'm hearing Stardew is better. That seems to be our general consensus as well.
I mean, the term better is very subjective. Yeah, it's relative, but they're both amazing. But in this case, I think Jared and I are both in agreement that Stardew Valley might be the better starting point. Like, you can move on to Animal Crossing once you're really into that kind of gameplay.
I think if I had started with Animal Crossing, I think I would have been overwhelmed.
Yeah, you would have been, yeah.
Whereas Stardew starts you off very slowly. You really have that like first year to really figure out the mechanics of everything. Like I can already tell my second year is going to be so much better. I'm going to grow so much stuff and get so many animals. It's going to be fantastic. I'm so excited to start. Right now, I'm just trying to get through the dull monotony that is winter.
No, winter is the best one. Are you an idiot?
It goes faster, but I also am like, okay, I'm going to mine again. I can't grow anything.
You can grow stuff. You just have to have a seed maker to make seeds.
I don't
so
have
that
a
you
seed
can
maker.
plant your forageables. You are a fool. Anyways.
So yeah, we kind of did touch on that one then. Obviously, I think Stardew Valley is the better way to go on this one. So then, his third question, which this is a fun one.
Very discussion-y.
Yeah. And this will definitely take up the last of our time for this episode. But what are your favorite handheld systems of all time, and what is your opinion on the Vita?
So let's start with opinions on the Vita, because that's the one where I will be able to not contribute much, because I have never played the Vita. You own one, and I'm told you play it sometimes?
I have, since getting the Switch, I haven't touched it in so long. The big thing, the Vita though, I never really put that much stock into as having it as like, I'm going to buy a lot of games for this, I'm going to keep it fully stocked, I'm going to always have it with me whenever I travel. I would take it on planes and different stuff like that, but was it something I pulled out in my daily when I'm sitting at home or going to a coffee shop or something? No. I pretty much let it stay in there, and I would just basically get games on it through the PS Plus system. As the Vita as a whole, I do like it. It's a great size. It's not too bulky. Easily can fit in your pocket if you're not having like a big protective carrying case on it. It can slip right into your front pocket on your pants. It's great. If you have pockets.
If you have boy pants.
If you have boy pants. Sorry.
Girl pockets won't fit that kind of stuff, unfortunately.
So it easily fits in your messenger bags and
in
purses.
your purse. There you go. Yeah, be inclusive, Jared.
I apologize.
How dare you?
I apologize, everyone. I take it back. Your messenger bags and purses. So you can then, so it really does have a lot that you can do. It has a lot of great games available for it. It does, though, and I think this is why I didn't necessarily go all in on it. It does have a very big market for JRPG games.
Yes.
Which
that's the
just
one
hasn't
thing.
been my genre.
So I love JRPGs.
Which is so funny.
Like
I should just give you my Vita.
You should just give me the Vita. So the funny thing is that I obviously have been a Nintendo handheld person since handhelds.
Right.
One of my first systems I think we ever got was like our Game Boy color, because it was like the more upright one, but it was in color.
That one?
Yeah, there we go. That one. Yeah. So that may have been like the first handheld system I ever owned, and it's amazing. But I never switched over to like Sony's version of the handheld. And that probably is more to my detriment than yours, because the one thing that PS Vita has that everybody else is lacking is that a ton of JRPGs that didn't make it to the West on the big consoles made it on the Vita.
You're right.
And that sucks. Because if you're like me and you're like, I do want to play those weird JRPGs that I see on all these weird blogs that I can't really read because they're all in Japanese, but the images that I'm seeing look super cool.
Right.
And they just don't make it to the West because they don't really have the fan base, they don't really have the platform for it in terms of consumer support, I should say. And yet they make it to the Vita because it's the lower cost, lower risk option. And it's like, man, I really kind of wish I had a Vita sometimes.
Yeah.
Not enough to own one, but every now and then I would see a game come out for Vita and I would be like, Vita?
Now, before I have played some great games on Vita. Like the Vita that I bought actually came with Borderlands 2 and all of its DLC. But I still started playing Borderlands 2 on it, and I played a few hours into it, but I was like, I'd rather play this on my PS4 or the
Not
PS,
every
on a big
game is
console.
right for handheld.
Right. But I have played some excellent games on there, like the Hotline Miami series I played on there. Fantastic fun games, the Hotline Miami series, if you haven't played those.
Severed.
Super Meat Boy, Severed. Oh, yeah, Severed. Severed was a big one because it was from Drinkbox, and this is when the Vita had already kind of was on its decline. And Drinkbox said, to hell with market norms, we're releasing a game launching on Vita
It
only.
launched on
So Severed
Vita.
came out for that. It incorporates the Vita's touch controls very well, which also another selling point for the Vita. It did have some great touch controls where the screen was a touch screen and also had these like pads on the back that were motion sensitive, or touch sensitive, not motion sensitive. And so it really did have a great library, and plus it did have the support of PS Plus, getting those free games every month for it. Unfortunately, that will end in March, I believe. The PlayStation came out saying that the now PS Plus, the free games you get will only be PS4 games. They're no longer allowing continuing support for PS3 and Vita games. So that is kind of a bummer, and probably does put the nail in the coffin for my Vita, unfortunately. But there are tons of great places you can get. There's obviously still the download store. You can go on and download any of these games. There is a huge, massive library for it stuff, but it does also, I will say, it is more geared towards the JRPG. So if you enjoy JRPGs, have at it, have a great time. I think the Vita is great. But other handhelds.
So mine would obviously be the DS. So
Okay.
I'm saying that in the broadest terms of the Nintendo DS. So I'm talking about its very first iteration, the OG DS, like the big clunky silver thing,
Yep.
all the way up to the 3DS. So I'm considering all of those to be one handheld because in my mind they're basically just slightly improved versions of the original concept, which is exactly what they are. You've got your two screens, it folds out, you got a little stylus, you do stuff on it. The only difference with the 3DS is that it has this completely useless 3D functionality, which makes people like dizzy, and then you feel like you have to puke, and it's no fun.
Oh, that's
so
not
you
good.
so you turn it off. Thankfully, Nintendo realized that the majority of people seem to hate that, so they released the 2DS, which is so much better. So A, get a 2DS, not a 3DS if you
2DS.
don't already have one. But B, the game library of the 3DS could really fit in kind of anywhere along the line. I think there are some really old DS games that can't be played on the newest versions of the handheld, but the gaming library of like the life of the DS is massive. There might be more games in the DS's library than I think some of the major consoles.
Is it backwards compatible? Like it can play games from older versions of the DS?
It was up to a certain point.
Okay.
I would have to check. It might be. You might still be able to play DS games on your new whatever. I haven't tried.
Okay.
Maybe. But regardless, I do still have my rose gold DS Lite, which actually, now that I think about it, the DS and the DS Lite were both still compatible with Game Boy Advance games. There was a slot at the
Damn,
bottom that you could
that's
pop
cool.
it out and insert your Game Boy Advance games, which was perfect for those of us that are like super diehards and wanted to be able to play Golden Sun anytime, anywhere, best JRPG of all time, question mark? Probably not because of The Legend of Dragoon, but it's really close. and the Minish Cap. So some of those really old Legend of Zelda games, like you could still play them from the Game Boy era, that is. You could still kind of play them on the older versions of the DS. Obviously, the new versions of the 2DS and the 3DS do not have backwards compatibility to the Game Boy Advance, but they do still have a lot of backwards compatibility for their own DS library.
Nice.
Yeah, that was a lot.
It was a lot.
You talk now.
Okay, I'll take over for a second. So mine, I would have to say, and I know it's not a true handheld, but now I do have to give some background to this answer. I would say my favorite handheld is with the Switch.
You should be like, books.
That's where the only true art of entertainment comes from. Books. Literacy. It's important. But no, I would have to say the Switch, even though it's not a dedicated handheld. It is, in the sense that you can legitimately play it only in handheld, but it has the functionality of the dock. So it's not quite true handheld as the PS Vita, PSP, 3DS, and all that stuff is. But still, it's the one that I spent the most time actually playing. Background to this answer, growing up when the Game Boy Advance, the Game Boys, and all that stuff were prevalent, I wasn't able to have one. So I just didn't have the playtime with it. I would play at friends' houses, and that would be about it. Of the what I did play, I would have to say the Game Boy Advance, though, would probably be my favorite of the old ones, due to games such as the Star Wars Revenge of the Sith game that I played, and also Advance Wars. Advance Wars was a super fun game that I loved on the Game Boy Advance. So I would say, based on that, on what little playtime I did have with those, I would have to say it's the Game Boy Advance. From current playtime experience and my actual of what I spent more hours actually in, it has to be the Switch. Because the Vita was kind of my gamble in that I thought it was going to be the more...
You thought it was going to outsell Nintendo's
No,
handheld.
No, I didn't think it was going to
okay.
outsell. I thought it was going to have... I thought the library would be more aligned with what I would play.
I see. Okay.
Because I already was so much into Sony stuff with my, side of the PS3, PS4. I knew there were like Assassin's Creed games for the Vita and some other things like this, some Uncharted games and some other ones. Actually, another great game for the Vita is Killzone Mercenaries. That was a first-person shooter on the Vita, but it was actually really well done. It played very smoothly. A lot of time first-person shooters for me on a handheld system can feel very clunky.
Yeah.
It felt very smooth, especially for the
Really?
Vita. I did love that. My only other complaint I would say, though, about the Vita, and this one is just because of how it's a little small for my hands.
Oh, you're ridiculous.
But that's just me. Like
That's just you.
It could probably be great
Normal
for you.
hand-sized people will be fine.
Big size hands people like me,
I thought you were going to say that the games come on little tiny discs and
no.
it's silly.
It's that sometimes, legitimately, like sometimes I felt like I was like, kind of like just like, and to hold it right to sometimes to get with all the buttons, it felt just a little small for my hands.
That's really funny.
Switch feels perfect in my hands. I love it. But Killzone Mercenaries is another great game for that. So I just felt like the games library would line up more closely with what I was enjoying at the time. Looking back, I probably should have gone with 3DS or 2DS because I think even though some of the games there would have been more, platformery, more of the Nintendo style than what I had been playing at the time, I think I would have found a bigger library and been able to dig into more past titles and things like that, like the Mario Karts, different Mario games and things like that to have even more playability than I would have had with my Vita. So looking back, hindsight 2020 kind of thing, I should have gone with the 2DS.
Yeah.
But yeah, so to answer your question, for me, it would be the Switch would be the biggest one. My
right
favorite
on.
one.
Killing it.
They are. They're doing a
PS
great
Vita,
job.
maybe killing it.
No,
Who's
it's definitely
to
not.
say?
Like, I'm pretty sure they're not making any new ones. It's
so.
on the decline.
We should probably, well, you already have one. I should probably get a PS Vita now before they stop printing them and they become collector's items.
That's true.
And the price goes way up. I wonder, I'm going to
Probably find one for pretty cheap.
I'm going to walk into Best Buy and be like, I would like a new in-box wrapped PlayStation Vita. And they would be like, man, we don't sell those.
Oh, I would say this, though. Another thing about the Vita that's kind of a knock on it. The memory cards for it are expensive.
Really?
They're very expensive.
You have to get a special memory card?
You have to get a specific proprietary memory card for it.
That sucks.
Now, the one I came with was an 8 gig, and for what I played on it, it was perfect because I was always getting these smaller, free indie games that didn't take up a whole lot of space. Perfect. But if I tried to play like Borderlands on it, that's pretty much my whole system.
Yeah. Oh, that's a bummer.
So,
well,
something to keep in mind there.
What was the battery life on the Vita?
The battery life on the Vita is outstanding.
Really?
I have... played it on a plane, put it just in sleep mode. You just tap the power button and it goes to sleep. Put it in its case, didn't touch it for months later. Go pick it up, pop it out of its case, hit the power button. It still has like half battery.
Nice.
It's fantastic battery. So that is a great selling point for it as well. So pros and cons everywhere on the Vita.
Because the battery life of the 2DS is pretty good. I want to say maybe like 5 to 10 hours. I don't know. I would have to check.
Battery life for the Switch is
better than the Switch. But even
terrible.
so, it was like... if I were going on a long trip and I were taking my 2DS, I would have to bring the charger because if I'm playing it a lot, it might not make it through the whole trip.
So there you go, Josh. Hopefully that answered all your questions.
And thank you for sending us
Yes.
so many super
And
fun
send us
questions.
more if you have any more.
All of
Anyone
our
can
other
send us emails.
lazy listeners, be like Josh.
Those patrons, they just send it through the Discord because they get all nice and
They're what's
feel
it called?
privileged.
They're complacent.
No, but we do appreciate all the feedback we get from all of our listeners. And again, so if we do have that patron specific channel on our Discord, the Rogues Gallery is what we call it, and that is a reward for either tier of our Patreon rewards. So check that out again, patreon.com/teamchatpodcast if you're interested at all in helping.
Of course, if you're not a patron, you can still submit requests to us via email.
Yeah,
like
obviously,
Josh
there's
did.
not a gate. There's not
There's
like
no gate.
there's not a gate there. It's just something we have. But anyway, I was going on another tangent with that, but I forgot what it was going to be. I don't remember.
No.
Something with the Patreon, but I don't remember what it was.
Oh well.
Oh well.
Oh
Anyway,
well.
Patreon.com/podcast. But before we go, we do have to do our soundtrack spotlight for this week, which comes to us from our guest from last week, Kirok.
Oh yeah, he had a good one.
He had a great one. This one comes from BioShock. It is Cohen's Masterpiece by Gary Shyman. Now, this one, the BioShock as a whole, I'm not the biggest fan of its soundtrack. It's okay.
Most
it's
of
not
it is
great.
very atmospheric.
Right.
Like it's not meant to be something that you can listen to at home.
Not many tracks necessarily stick out in my head when I think about it, except for Cohen's Masterpiece. Cohen's Masterpiece takes place when you're actually dealing with the character of Cohen in the BioShock game. He, if I remember correctly, he's the one who wants to build some massive art installation out of
he's
mummified
the artist, isn't he?
splicers or something like that. Or cast images of splicers, but he's obviously just dunking these living splicers into huge vats of whatever
Plaster?
paste. Yeah, plaster.
Paste. Go to art school.
I chose not to. But anyway, but then you meet Cohen, you walk into this room because you hear this piano playing, and you walk and you can hear it faintly and it gets louder and louder, and you finally, when you discover the source, you discover it's Cohen, and he's playing this incredible song on the piano. It's one of those songs, Kirok brought it up to us last week after we finished recording, and I was like, that's one of those songs that you hear on the piano and you can't understand how one person can be playing it.
Yeah.
It sounds like there should be somebody else next to them going on, doing some stuff. It's an incredibly beautiful, but also menacing and dark.
Haunting.
It's very haunting. Yes. Excellent way to describe it. So that is the soundtrack spotlight for this week. So I know I do this on our Twitter and I don't necessarily make a big deal of it. I have only the preview of the song in our episodes, since we just kind of have that to be here, this is the song we talked about. But Wednesday or Thursdays, I will post a link to the full song on our Twitter and Facebook and stuff like that. So look for that if you want to listen to the full one, or just go ahead and go to YouTube. Give it a search there. Listen to this great piece of music by Gary Shyman.
Were you going to mention that we're also now on Spotify?
Yes! We're also now on Spotify!
Good for me!
Thank you!
You're
Thank
welcome!
you! We actually did, in this last little bit of housekeeping, we did switch to a new podcasting service. We're using Fireside.fm, which is actually an Austin local company.
How about them apples?
We switched over to that one, so I actually finally completed the migration. They made it super easy. This is not an ad. I'm just telling you. Fireside.fm made it super easy to transfer my podcast from SoundCloud. With a click of a single button, I was able to import all of our episodes into Fireside.fm and say bye-bye to SoundCloud.
Yeah, F you, SoundCloud.
So we're now over at Fireside FM. I'm loving it. But they also, one of the big reasons why I want to do that is because with another simple click of a button, I was able to submit our podcast, our wonderful little humble podcast, to Spotify, and we are now on Spotify. You can give a search for Team Chat Podcast, and we'll pull right up. All of our episodes are there. It's great. It's fantastic. I love it.
We're finally a real podcast.
We're finally a real
Finally.
podcast. I'm like Pinocchio. I'm finally a real boy.
3 years on.
So check us out on Spotify as well. But that concludes this episode of Team Chat Podcast. Thanks again, everyone, for listening. And thank you, Josh, again, for your great question. Again, looking forward to see what's going to come with Destiny when the coming days with the Bungie and Activision split. And of course, it was always great to again hear about the news of Soldier 76. So great episode all around. We will see you all next week, Tuesday 9 a.m. for the new episode of Team Chat Podcast. Thanks for listening and listen to the song.